Mama Chona le Joseph Ngutana Molobu ke le Polokwe le hlaba Botswana le hlaba ka le mau ka Sebumo le hlaba le isa forong ha mafahwane a etsa a e halala a re khutla hape o e eketsa motho wa wetsi.
Welcome to the Journey with Mpho podcast, a sacred space for healing, love, and rediscovering your life purpose. Introducing your host, Mpho.
Hello JWM friends and family. We are delighted to have your attention and invaluable time. We are 2 days away from our 1-year anniversary. May 26th is the day we officially launched this podcast show, and boy have we grown, learned, laughed, listened, been inspired, and hit the repeat button. Thank you for being a valuable part of this show. When reflecting on the details of the planning process for the show, I remembered the photographer who shot the picture that is now used as our cover art. Hence, in the studio with us today is Kimberly Lola, a visual and performing arts California State University graduate. Lola is a singer, songwriter, dancer, and model. I met Lola at the 2017 Veg Fest in Honolulu. She complimented me on my Duke, aka head wrap, and I on her beautiful natural hair. We became instant friends when I confessed that the Duke was actually being used to hide my disaster hair. Welcome to Journey with Mpho, Lola.
Thank you, mahalo. It's good to be here.
Okay, let's get right into it. What are some of the things that you believe help you derive meaning from life?
Connections with people. That I think without it, I don't know. I don't want to say life is meaningless, but I just can't imagine being on a deserted island. Especially during this time of quarantine. Yeah, having a few select people I can still connect with, whether virtually or, visiting my boyfriend or, I don't know, I just feel like happy. Yeah. I'm not feeling the impact quite as much, separate from like not being able to work. Outside of that, it's just like, wow, life is great, So.
It's definitely that human connection that we're missing out on. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing about being self-isolated. It's like, you don't get to see people.
Exactly. And it changes what life means to people when you don't get to see people. Yeah. So I think for me, that's a big part of it. And then just being in nature too. Yes. That's like, we're still allowed to go swimming in the ocean here in Hawaii. So I've gone a few times and it's just so peaceful and serene and it's like a rebirth.
It is.
When I go. So that I'm just like, it takes you away from your phone. Can't be on your phone in the ocean, it takes you away from the cars. So I'm just like, this is, like if everything else, society collapsed, we still have the ocean, hopefully. We still got, trees and all that stuff, and then living here, it's just like, so I feel like people and nature, which is,
it's pretty good stuff. Okay, so sometimes on our path to success, we are the stumbling blocks, like we're in our own way, right? Has there been a moment when you've recognized this and then been like, okay, I need to fix this. I need to get out of my feels, basically?
Oh, yeah, for sure. When have I not? I'm like an artist, so that's like
we're always
once a year. I feel like I've been in a quarter life crisis for like the past decade. So I'm always like, youth is wasted on the young. And, looking back, you can say, okay, obviously I shouldn't have done that. Obviously that was my fault. And now just being slower in my movement helps with preventing being in my own way. Not being so impulsive and quick to react to things and really think about, okay, life is actually pretty long too. So it's the longest thing you're ever going to experience. So the mistakes I have made, try not to dwell on them, and then try just to like really be intentional with what I'm going to do rather than just like do things in the moment because I feel like I'm running out of time because life is short. But it's like, relax.
Yeah.
It's fine.
There's that rush, right, in our generation. Like, we don't talk about it, but there's the whole, I don't have my whole life. Like, I've got to do everything right now, and if I don't do it right now, it's not going to work out.
Absolutely. Like, even though I'm saying this, I'm kind of like a hypocrite because literally last night I was up, like, working on something till, 3 a.m, and it's because I get that, okay, I have to finish this right now. And then I'm like, okay, I have to go to sleep, It's sometimes it's, I think our society, especially in American culture, it pushes that on us, like capitalism and everything. You have to be quick or else the next person's going to snatch your opportunity.
Right.
And so we put pressure on ourselves, but we're also getting that pressure from external sources too, And if we want to survive in this world, then we can feel like, especially our generations, we can feel like, okay, I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
Like,
That's kind of what I've been feeling in the self-isolation time, right? Like, just slow down, Tiger.
Yeah.
Like, I've been off social media. Today's my first day back on social media. And it's like, slow down, Tiger. You don't have to have it figured out. You don't have to have the podcast booming and being top charts. Just steady does it.
Yeah.
Easy. Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, so good.
That's good though, being off social media, because otherwise you're just constantly comparing. You can't help it.
Right.
'Cause you're like,
I feel like Instagram's the perfect place for that comparison thing to run, right? Because it's just like snapshots of people's perfect moments in life, right? It's not their life, but it's just that perfect moment that they've chosen to show to us. And you're looking at your entire life and you're comparing it to one person's 20 minutes.
But also, you don't know how much it took them to get there. So you're thinking, wow, like they're making it look so easy. They could have been working on that for the past 10 years. And they finally perfected it and put it up. And now you're thinking, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And maybe you just need a few more years.
Oof, so good, so good. Okay. So your spiritual journey in Hawaii has been somewhat similar to mine. What made you move here?
I was engaged to someone who's in the military, and I never before would have thought to live in Hawaii, just never crossed my mind. And so this is the first place I've lived outside of San Diego.
Wow.
Yeah, and I feel like what a place to be, like people are like, oh, you moved from one paradise to another. So I feel like I'm kind of spoiled. What do I have to complain about? But yeah, it's been really, I don't know. Even though California is really pretty, San Diego is really pretty, I feel here, since I've been here, I've been more in, like, out in nature a lot. So swimming and trying to surf and hiking and all that stuff, I didn't really do that there. Because I grew up there, you take things for granted, so.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a running joke that I'm mentally always on the next flight to South Africa. And I know you can identify with the sense of longing for home, right? I met you last year at a grocery store and you were like, I've been thinking about going home too.
Yeah. Well, because that relationship didn't work out immediately, I was like, well, I only came here because I was with that person. And I'm a singer and a model, and being in Hawaii is great, but I missed LA and I had a lot of opportunities out there. So my immediate reaction was, let me go back. But I wasn't ready financially to up and move myself.
Okay.
And so in that, trying to figure out how I'm going to get back, I ended up establishing a life here. So now I'm just kind of like, maybe I can live in both places,
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe I could live in South Africa and Hawaii.
Yeah. have a house in two places. So yeah. For sure.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about your artistic nature. Now, for people who don't know, Kimberly is incredibly multi-talented. You have about 4 Instagram accounts with focuses on natural hair, food, photography, and music. You are also a runway and print model who plays the ukulele and sings. Oh boy, did I say multi-talented? I know the microphone landed in your hands at age 2 and the camera fell into your hands in high school. Walk us through the brand that is Kimberly Lola and the maintenance thereof. Do you ever get confused with where to focus?
Okay, so it's funny because I've always been a multi-hyphenate. I've always done all of those things and had all of those interests, and it's always been made sense to me, but then when I speak to someone who's more mathematical or analytical or corporate, then I realize that's not normal for everybody. So for me, having to go back and forth in between both worlds, because as an artist, sometimes you aren't able to sustain a living doing that. And so you have to play hopscotch where you're jumping into the corporate world and then back into your artistry. So, you know, that part was difficult to maintain just because when you're at a job that is not focused around your art, it can be draining, you know, because you feel like you're not being authentic. But then it's like, okay, well, you can't be authentic 100% of the time. Sometimes you have to pay bills, and that's authentic too, because you need to eat, right? It's just a different part of you. So last year I was working at an office, and then I decided to go full-time with my photography. And it was like such a nice change, because then I could focus on my own art. And then, I mean, doing the photography, it's not always about art. I also have clients to make happy, and I have certain things that are like standard. But it was still, it helped me maintain myself better as far as like fulfilling things I like to do and also paying my bills. So that made it a little easier. But then I do find that then I haven't sung in like a few months. And then I'm like, oh, I need to go perform. You know what I mean? Because then I'm like so focused on the photography part. So that can be a little tricky, because you have so many interests. Sometimes if you're not making money doing one thing, sometimes it can be put on the back burner. And then I'm like, wait, I haven't done a photo shoot in like a few months. I haven't done a runway shoot, you know, and then you start getting the itch where you're like, okay, I need to do that again. And then I'll find an event to perform, or I'll look for a job doing music, or, you know, studio work, or doing like a print job for modeling. And then it's like, oh, that feels good. Now I need to get back into it. And it just kind of keeps going around like that. And that being said, I need a manager, because then that person would be like, okay, do this, do that, and do this. But that's kind of...
That's how sometimes I feel too. I'm like, okay, maybe I need a manager. Like in between Reiki, poetry, the online store, you know, and the podcast, it can be a lot. But then I also think about how I need to unburden myself of the burden that is money. Right? Because I think you talk about the corporate world and having to have a job because you have bills to pay, but that can feel suffocating sometimes. You know, you can sit doing something that's not your passion and things that you may not necessarily believe in, but you're concerned about having to feed yourself and take care of yourself. And I'm like, I'm praying or hoping for that part that finally pushes past money being an issue. You know, whether that be I make a lot of money or I don't make money at all, I just need to be at that place where money isn't a topic or a focus for me. Yeah.
Exactly. Because when it's the focus, you just kind of lose sight of the other things.
The things that you're here to do, because you feel your most happiest on the runway and modeling and doing photography, you know. So if I were to say, hey, Kimberly, here's $5 million, forget about working.
Sorry, let me daydream for a second. Yeah, seriously.
Right?
Exactly.
It changes everything.
For sure.
Oh my goodness. Okay, we are ready for your music.
Oh, okay. all of my sanity. I try to run, but there is nowhere for me, only to go. Oh, no,
Oh my goodness. Say what? Oh my god. I don't think I've ever met that side of you. Like, I've seen you on stage with the ukulele, but I'm getting goosebumps just watching you perform.
wow.
So that was from your last EP titled The Light?
Yes.
What is different from this EP in comparison to the first one, which was This Lifetime?
Yeah, the first one, I feel like it was more R&B hip hop vibes, and then The Light, I feel like I didn't really know how to categorize it, like contemporary R&B, but it had the electronica, as you heard, the music in the background, which I feel took it to a different place, and it made me sing a different way.
Yeah.
I mean, still obviously like certain qualities of my voice, but it brought out more the like theater side of me. And so like in the first track, if you've listened to the other tracks, they're like, even in that one a little bit, but like I go in my higher register and then I build on it, and especially the title track, The Light, it's like ominous, and it's like a choir. That was the idea kind of when I was singing it. And so I just really liked what that music brought out in me, the instrumental behind it, because different instrumentals bring out different like lyrics and bring out different like vibes and moods
And feelings, definitely.
So I felt like that one was my favorite.
So where can people listen to you? Like, where is this EP, the first one or the second one?
They're both on Bandcamp, but if you
Okay.
go to KimberlyLola.com, you can find it there and then link it, And I am in the works of putting it on more platforms, so I don't want to say too much just in case things don't work out. But if you go to my website or follow me on social media at Kimberly Lola, then I'll update as needed. And then hopefully when this quarantine's over, I want to start preparing for maybe recording, music videos here while I'm in this beautiful place of Hawaii and like just having the scenery,
Okay, so speaking of your website, KimberlyLola.com, you wrote, I used to write about things I didn't know about, things I read about, or things that happened to other people, even things I imagined happening. I hadn't realized that my life experiences were worth writing down and singing to people. Now my life experiences are all you'll hear in my music. I always make it a point to emphasize the importance of one's narrative. This show is, amongst many things, dedicated to providing people like yourself and many others with a platform to, like Emily Sunday would say, share the version of their events, that is their life story. Having discovered the power of your life story, would you say it is important, if not necessary, for anyone who may be listening to this to do the same?
Yeah, definitely. I was so green, like back when I first started writing, and I didn't know what to write about. And I felt always that, I've had a pretty good life. I don't have any, major things that have happened that, can produce quality music that people would want to hear. That's what I always thought. And I was kind of felt like, what kind of artist am I? I have no struggles, you know? Since then, I've had struggles. And so now I can write about things that are relatable and that are authentic, you know? So I think it's therapeutic too, you know? Yeah. And like when I got those songs out, now it's something that, you know, specifically when I hear those songs, I remember what I wrote them about, who I wrote them about, but it's not sad. It's more of like, wow, I created that from that. And so it's kind of like a positive side to whatever negative thing might have happened. Yeah. And then, of course, the positive songs are just positive anyway, you know, and then you just remember the good times and stuff. But yeah, I think it's important for artists and even people who aren't artists to just be as creative as you can and have an outlet for that, because that helps you process life
and emotions and things that happen. It's funny that you say that. That's how I feel about my poetry. I'm like, I haven't had enough heartbreak. Come on, I need more heartbreak so I can write really amazing things. But it's like,
careful what you wish for, though.
Yeah, can you write about happy stuff?
Right.
Oh, what about rainbows and flowers and this beautiful paradise you're in?
Right. Yeah. You know, and it's funny. I think it comes down to influence too, because I think of a lot of the music I've listened to. I grew up on listening to R&B. It's rhythm and blues, you know, and maybe, I listened to pop music a lot in high school, but I feel like my foundation was blues. And so I'm like, wait, I can't write about happy stuff. No one wants to hear that. But they do. You just have to learn how to emote that in a way that's relatable and
we totally do want to hear happy songs.
Yeah, for sure. So I threw in like one of them on that EP. Yeah, it's like upbeat. Makes you want to roller skate or something like that.
I grew up on Eminem. This is why I write angry poetry.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, so I remember our photo shoot conversation, the planning stage right up until the editing process. It was your professionalism, execution, and delivery that left me in awe. You listened to what I needed, recommended the best location for it, and even brought music, an umbrella, and a makeshift wardrobe. Talk to us about your business, Lola O Photography. How did it come about? How long has it been in existence? What are some of the best practices you think a new photographer should prioritize?
Okay. Well, I started doing photography, back in high school I took a class, but then a year before I moved here, a year and a half maybe, I started a blog, thinklikeamodel.com, where I wanted to give advice to upcoming models. And I wanted to have my own visual content, so I just started finding models and taking pictures of them. And then one of my models hired me to take photos of she and her husband, and then my sister hired me to take pictures of she and her business partner, and I was like, all right, time to start charging, you know? So then I started charging, and then I moved here, and then I was like, it was a no-brainer. I automatically started pursuing that, but it took a while to kind of get a foothold here. So I was still doing other jobs outside of that. And then I started focusing on family portraits. I realized that was where the market was, and it's fun too. And so I really just started developing, okay, how can I make this unique? Because I see other photographers out there, and there's like so many here, you know, because everyone wants to live here and take pictures. That's like the obvious thing. So what can I do to differentiate myself? So then I started bringing props and accessories, so like flowers and leis, you know, and people love that. People who are tourists, people who live here, they're like, no thanks. But the tourists are like, oh my gosh, you wanted to get that, you know, so just having that, and then having the music, it's calming for my clients, but it also low-key is kind of for me too, because even though I'm a performer, I can sometimes get a little nervous before I meet people. And so about 10 minutes before I meet my clients, I turn on the music and it instantly puts me in the vibe. And then I'm like, all right, I'm cool. Like everything's going to be fine, you know. And then when I meet the clients, a lot of clients have said, oh, I love that there's music. And it relaxes them, because some people are just nervous in front of the camera. And so I was like, you know what, and this makes sense because we're in Hawaii and we're outside. And so when you go to a luau, there's music. When you go to a restaurant here, there are people playing like island music or even like R&B music. It makes sense, you know. It didn't feel out of place. It just kind of felt like, oh, they're at the beach. Most of my shoots are at the beach. They've got the island music. They've got their leis on. They've got probably their Hawaiian shirts. So it kind of just fell into place. And then I also started giving out like client gifts like macadamia nuts. So I just really wanted to create that, okay, you're here on vacation. Even if they live here, I still do that. But like for most, but for tourists especially, they love that because it just kind of continues on with their experience of Hawaii. And I'm not from here, but it's like, you know, these are little touches that I can do that I know I would love. So, and then best practices, I think that's really important for people doing business in general, is just to find how you can differentiate yourself. And sometimes it's not even 100% about your skill level. It's about what our client's going to take away and remember you by, you know? And your photos or whatever product you provide might be just as good as the next person, but what is that person not doing that you can do that people are like, oh, I remember her. And so I've had repeat clients who have shot with me like year after year, and I see their kids growing up, and it's like so cool. I'm like, wait, I saw her when she was 3 and now she's 5, you know what I mean? And it's like seeing them year after year, they're like, you're my photographer, because they liked, obviously I'm friendly and I'm upbeat and everything too, and I'm really communicative as far as like answering questions, and I just try to be positive and upbeat, even if someone like is not in the best mood. I just try to always spin it into a positive light too. So that's also something, I mean, being self-employed, you have to wear a lot of hats too.
You do.
And that's tricky, but just always remembering like, okay, I just always want this person to walk away feeling like they were heard, they got what they wanted, and it was a unique experience. So
that's definitely how I felt. People see those pictures, any of those pictures really, and they're like, were you in South Africa? This looks really amazing. And I don't get a lot of, like, I do different photo shoots for different things, but I never got as good of a response as I did for every single photo that you shot. Oh my goodness. Awesome. I loved your idea for where to shoot the poses too, because I get pretty nervous. People are like, oh yeah, she probably just, I'm like, no, I don't know how to stand. I don't know how to smile. You were on point, like chin up, sway, twirl. I know it feels funny, but it looks good on camera. And I was like, I could do this for the rest of my life. Like, I could be a model.
You totally could. Like, do you remember people were walking by and they're like, oh, you're so beautiful. So, yeah, for sure. Like, you made it easy, too. So,
well, that was all you. Okay. So I've been vegan on and off for about 3 years, but you have been vegan for about 5 years. What inspired your journey to become vegan?
Yeah, well, and actually too, I forgot it. It's been like 5.5 years because I always equate it with moving here, but I'm like, no, I went before I moved here. So it's actually been 5.5, which is weird because now it's just normal. And what inspired me, I just was having a lot of digestive problems and just not like feeling well a lot. And I had a couple friends who were a couple and they were vegan, and they, like the woman, she had lost weight. She a lot of her ailments had gone away. And I was like, cool, let me check this out. I'm into experimenting, and I'd rather do like an elimination thing and then reintroduce things into my diet rather than take medicine. I'm like totally like, I'm not anti-medicine, but I'm like, I will not take medicine unless I feel like I'm dying, literally.
Me too.
You know what I mean? Because it's like your body's way of telling you something's up, you need to change something, and I don't want to just like numb myself. And so if I can avoid it, I try not to take medicine. So I'm like, I'd rather just do it with diet, and you know, I could clean up my diet for sure. And so I did a raw vegan thing for like 3 weeks. So I was like, yeah, I want to try this too, and I decided to go raw vegan because duh, like why not? Let me go from eating meat to just like eating only raw fruits and vegetables, sure, right? But I tried that for like 3 weeks, and I felt like I had so much energy. I would sit down and eat 6 mangoes, go running. I hate running. Let's just put that out there.
You and I both.
And I would eat 6 mangoes. I could run, and I didn't want to stop. It was amazing. Like
I'm still not running.
But I only run on the beach though, because like it's better for your joints. But that's how great I felt amazing. And then I broke the fast, I guess if you would call it the fast. I forget, I'm on audio, people can't see me doing air quotes. I broke the fast, which I wasn't thinking of it as a fast. I really was like, let me try this, and if it works, maybe I'll continue. And by eating ribs, because like, sure, that makes sense, right? I felt so sick, and then I went home immediately and made a smoothie. Within 15 minutes, I felt amazing again. And so it still took a few years for me to actually revisit the vegan thing, but that was kind of like a footnote, like, okay, let me go back to that, because there's something to that, you know, and just being cleaner on the inside. And then, let's see, before I moved, I was finally like, well, before I even knew I was moving, I was finally like, let me just do it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, as soon as you tell your body you're not going to have something, you're like, now I want all of it. So I'd eat like, with a significant other, we'd eat like a block of cheese and a whole box of wheat thins every night for like weeks. Because it was like, all of a sudden, I felt like I was going to be deprived.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, and I think I'd been watching documentaries, and I don't remember which one, but finally I was like, nope, done, no more cheese. Because like, I made that switch in my brain where like, this wasn't just about my health at that point. It started to become more about like, I don't want to do this to the animals. Yeah. Also, it's gross. Yeah. Like when you see the videos, it's just like gross. So even if I didn't care about the animals, it'd be like, ew, like, gross,
What started my journey is exactly what you're saying. The What the Health documentary on Netflix, it freaked me out. Like, I watched it one night, the next morning I switched over to smoothies, salads, and soups, and that's where I was for like a month.
Really?
And that's not a sustainable diet. Like being vegan and just eating smoothies, salads, and soups isn't going to help you out. And so initially I felt great. I could exercise, do Taibo videos for about 2 hours, not stopping, and I slept well and I felt lighter. The inflammation had come down significantly. But after 3 months, I completely crushed. I was in the hospital. I was sick. I didn't know what was wrong with me. And so I do think eliminating, but still having like a structure of what you're doing and doing adequate research can really help. But seeing what happens with I still cannot eat pork. Like after that documentary, seeing the pigs, and then I think it was in North Carolina where the community was being affected by the pig farms. Like they would kill the pigs and then use the same remains to feed the pigs that were still alive. And I was like, yeah, that's it. Yeah. I'm done. I'm done for bacon.
Right. Right. Well, it's interesting what you said about like having a structure too, because when I first went vegan, there were all these, like, vegan was in, and I think it's still trending. It's on an upward trend, but I don't hear about it as much, and it might also be because I'm so far into it that I don't really pay attention. But when I first started, there were all these YouTubers who were vegan, and it was like smoothies and smoothie bowls and salad bowls, and like it was almost like this fad where a lot of people were doing it, but after a while you need fat, you need a lot of different, you need to make sure you're getting all your vitamins. And I realized that I got a blood test, and actually, it's funny, the doctor said, you actually have too much B12, you can kind of relax on that and take it every other day, because I was doing a spray. Okay. So I had more of that, but I was so focused on that because that was pounded into my head as a vegan. I wasn't thinking about my calcium and my potassium and my magnesium. Those were actually a little bit low. So now I have to take supplements for that. So, I think like Chronometer and MyFitnessPal are apps you can use to plug in your, what you're eating. But that for me is hard. I can do that for about a few days, and then after a while it's just it's tedious and it's a lot. But I think still like every now and then checking back in and seeing, okay, what am I eating, what am I not getting enough of is really important, because over time, and vitamin D, I was too low on vitamin D, which is weird because in Hawaii, I'm always in the sun as a photographer, but the first few years I lived here, I would carry a parasol with me or an umbrella, even when I was shooting, like in the summertime, because I'm so afraid of the sun. I'm like a desert spider. Like I run to the shade, and I'm like conscious of my skin, as far as like wrinkles, but also skin cancer and everything.
You look good.
Thank you. And then, but it was like, how am I low on vitamin D? Yeah. It was crazy. So I had to stop using parasol and umbrella for a while and just get more sun, but then I also take supplements for that. And I think it's just important to check back in, even if you're not vegan though, because some people think, oh, you're vegan, you're going to be like malnourished and everything, but even people who eat meat take supplements too. Yeah. So
that's what I've been looking at right now. I'm at a point where my omega-3 capsules from Amazon are almost out, and I'm like, oh, I should probably relook at the supplements that I'm taking. What do I want to bring back? Could I get something that still has omega-3 but is a multivitamin for daily? So like a combination, and then it has to be plant-based for me. That's a big thing. I'm not trying to just take as many multivitamins as possible. I'm trying to make sure that they're eco-friendly and vegan. It's pretty interesting to continuously go back to the drawing board and say what is working, what is not working, because it can be boring too. Like when you're having tofu all the time, it's like, oh my god, I'm having tofu for the 100th time.
Right. Well, it's funny too because like my boyfriend, he's not vegan and he's such a good cook and he cooks me new things every time I go to his house and I'm like, I never knew this existed. Like he makes, he's an Italian American and he'll make vegan version of an Italian dish that he grew up on and he doesn't even look at a recipe and I'm like, what the heck? I could, like if I had known about this when I first went vegan, are you kidding me? Like I was just eating like salads, smoothie bowls and like I eat out at because I don't really cook and I eat out all the time and I'm like, I need to start cooking because this is amazing. You can eat so much stuff and I think like people think vegan and deprivation and even though I was like, I'm going vegan, I don't care. I still had that mindset of like, oh gosh, but what am I going to eat now? You know what I mean? So it's important to like experiment and don't think of it as like a life sentence. It's like, oh no, there's so many new things I can try and you don't always have to eat tofu. Like there are alternatives, So yeah, for sure.
And I think bringing in kindness, like diet, exercise, meditation, it's a journey with your body, right? And so trying to do too much of anything can feel like imprisonment or like, why the hell am I doing this for so long? But I found out after the whole hospital episode from being vegan that I could eat meat and I didn't have to judge myself so harshly for it. I'm like, okay, today was a meat day and that's okay. You've had 4 non-meat meals for the week. And so practicing kindness and patience with yourself, that eventually you will get to that place where you don't eat meat at all, or you have meat once a week and that's okay. That's what your body wants and that's what your body may need. But like this, I think there's this harsh thing that we do with ourselves, like I have to be one way and that's it. But we're not, we're not one way.
I was vegetarian for a year before I went vegan. Actually, I forgot to mention that. So yeah, I mean, everyone, we're on a journey. We're all in different parts of our journeys. We're all not necessarily going the same place. Yeah. And I think even just like changing one meal a day, as I say, it's like the cliche. One meal a day, plant-based, you're still eliminating so much suffering and so much, suffering within yourself too, because of the diet, the sad, food that people eat, standard American diet, at least here, is detrimental to our health too. And it's not even just about the other animals, it's about us, the human animals, who are suffering diabetes, heart disease. These are the leading causes of death, and they're related directly to our diets. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, just thinking of it more too of like, what can I do for myself, even if you don't care? Because some people really don't care about animals, and that's like, whatever, Some people do it for the environment, but also ultimately, like, if you care about your health, that's one way to think of it. Okay, like, maybe you do eat one meal of meat a week, but in the end, what's your end goal? Like, do you want to live a long, healthy, happy life? If so, incorporating more plants is obviously going to be better. So you just got to figure out ways to make it good.
Like a good balance.
Yeah, and make it taste good, because you don't want to be eating, like, stuff that you don't like either, because then it's not sustainable. You're not going to keep up with that.
Yeah. So if one's not determined enough, being vegan can mean expensive trips to Whole Foods and down to earth.
Yeah.
How do you keep your meal costs low?
I probably am the wrong person to ask about that, because if it weren't for my boyfriend, I would still be eating at down to earth every day.
That's true.
For a while, when I first moved here, I lived in Waikiki, and I would actually cook for myself, and I would do a lot of Buddha bowls, that's just like rice, beans, vegetables of your choice, and mix and match. And I had this like really good one that I'd eat all the time, just like, rice, beans, corn, lettuce, cucumbers, just like so good, and I never got sick of it. But I don't know, I guess like, having different stresses in my life, eventually it's like, oh, I don't want to cook, and then I would just eat out all the time. And it was still better, like, because it's a vegetarian grocery store and it's plant-based, but they still cook with oil and stuff too. So even not just the cost about it, but like the ingredients that are being used. I think cooking at home is essential, because otherwise, not only is it going to break your bank, but you're not going to necessarily be getting all the best things in your body, because you can't always, even if they list the ingredients, you don't necessarily know everything and how they're preparing it. Because sometimes they might just put veganese. Okay, well, what's in veganese? I don't know. I have to go look at the package, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, cooking, I mean, there are a few staples every vegan needs. Beans, rice. You can do so many things with that. You know what I mean?
Preach to the choir.
You can make Mexican dishes. You can make Buddha bowls. Like, there are a lot of different parts of the world where those are staples. So just incorporating different spices and herbs, you know, it's going to really change it. And
brings in a little bit of excitement.
Yeah.
I did like a plain split pea soup, and then I added tomato paste as a next day meal, and it turned out really good. I was like, oh, look at you.
Yeah.
Quarantining and cooking.
Right?
Let's go.
And then meal prepping too at the beginning of the week and just switching it up. Like, okay, I've had this for 2 days in a row, but it's not gone yet. What can I add to it to make it a little bit interesting? And then also trying new things, depending on where you live. Obviously here, I started trying lots of different fruits that I'd never tried, like star fruit and mango. I mean, well, I've tried mangoes, but star fruit, dragon fruit, there are just so many different things, like sour sops.
Yeah.
And depending on where you go, you could save money, you could spend more, it just kind of depends. But being open to a variety helps as well.
It does.
Because then you're not going to be like, oh, well, I only want this and they don't have this. And now I'm going to spend a bunch of money on the packaged version of it. You could be like, okay, you know what, I'll have this instead. It's here, it's cheaper. And I think just being open-minded is really important.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so this may sound like a typical interview question, but for a go-getter like yourself, it is appropriate. I'm curious, what do you hope the next 5 years bring forth for Kimberly?
Oh, well, it's so hard because as you get older, you stop trying to like plan everything out because you realize none of my plans really go exactly. I mean, not none of them, but so I don't know. It's hard. I mean, ultimately, as cliche as it sounds, I just want to make sure I'm happy and financially stable. And outside of that, I want success, whatever that means. And it doesn't always mean like I don't necessarily need to be at the top of the charts in music or anything, but can I sustain a living and then also do things that I love to do and I'm able to express my artistry without having to stress about money. So like in 5 years, I want to be able to do that more. And yeah, I love music, but I also, I do want to make money off of it too, because then I can do more, you know? Like I want to be compensated for the things I love so I can do it more, essentially.
Yes.
So that's where really more of the mindset is. So I'd like to do that more. I don't know how far I'll take the photography because honestly, I just kind of fell into it. And then it was like, oh, this is fun. And I can make money, of course, you know? I'd rather be on the beach. Like my office is the beach in Hawaii. I'd rather be doing that than sitting in an office, you know? But in 5 years, I don't know if I'll still be doing that. But I definitely will always be doing music and modeling it to some degree. I just don't know. I guess we'll see. As long as I'm happy and content.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, and I can make a living and not have to stress about money. Always have a roof over my head and food then.
That's good. Yeah. Food.
Yeah, food is life, so as long as I can continue eating the way I'm eating and better, that's my goal, is to just be rich so I can just eat mangoes all day, because like they're so expensive.
Okay, are you ready for the next song?
Sure. It took too long for me to see, according to the universe, you and me. I believe forever
one of those heartbreak songs? Was it? Tell us.
Yeah. But it's funny because I wrote it long after it happened. So it was just kind of like going through the archives of my brain. And then, you know, like I was saying earlier, the different instrumentals just bring out different things in me. And that felt like that's what that song needed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think we process like loss of anything in different stages, right? Sometimes we're just like, okay, whatever, moving on. And then you're walking down the street one day and you're like, no, we're just dying right here.
Public. Yeah, exactly.
I thought I was the only one who has that. Thank you for identifying.
But I don't do it in public. I just put on my sunglasses and like do the whimper. Like, yeah, you will not see me crying in public. I refuse.
You may see me crying in public.
Okay.
I've been messing around with people doing this little like, what would it look like if I were an actress and to cry on TV? So the sounds are really believable, but apparently the face is kind of like weird.
It's when you don't see the tears. That's what I can't stand. I'm like, this isn't. Just put an eye drop. Like, give me something.
Spray the face.
Yeah.
Okay, people have to hear more of you and dive deep into all the facets that is, you know, everything that is you. How do we get a hold of you? I know there's KimberlyLola.com. You have a website for the photography. You have 4 Instagram accounts. Like, just market yourself.
I have like 6 Instagram accounts.
Let's go. All of your handles.
Kimberly
for what?
Lola, Kimberly Lola for my music, my modeling, my dancing. Let me go back to the more important. Lola O Photography is for obviously my photography, and right now masks, because I'm selling masks during the quarantine because I can't do photos. And then curlyography is just like hair stuff, and then travel. Well, I want it to eventually be travel, but it's mainly Hawaii photos. So like hair and scenery, and then raw mess. So I have rawmess.com is my vegan blog, and the Instagram is rawmessblog. Apparently rawmess is like an Indian name or something, I don't know. So like I couldn't get that. But you'll find like vegan recipes on there and just like inspirational stuff. I need to post more on there for sure. Because when you've been vegan for a while, you kind of forget. You're like, oh yeah, people need to see this because like they still need to be inspired. So I'm trying to do more videos and like on YouTube and then also on Insta Lives too. So to inspire people to eat vegan, and it's not all healthy recipes too. Sometimes it's like we made these like fried mushrooms or like fried chicken. So you know, I'm like trying, but some stuff there. And then if you're into the modeling stuff, thinklikeamodel.com and at thinklikeamodel on Instagram and social media and stuff. So yeah, I have like a lot of different stuff. People are like, why do you have different ones? It's like, well, if you want to hear my music, you don't want to also see pictures of models on there unless it's of me. If you want to see vegan stuff, you don't necessarily care to see photos of my hair, you know? So it's more of a branding thing. Yeah.
Okay, so all of these links, blogs, websites will be in the episode notes, so be sure to pick your poison and dive deep. Okay, so Kimberly Lola, thank you so much for being part of the sacred journey, for sharing your art, voice, and story with the JWM family. So we're excited to see where the journey takes you. I'm gonna let you close off with one more song because I can't get enough of you, and I feel like other people can't get enough of you.
Wonderful. So I think I'll do the title track off of my EP.
Okay, sure. Until then, Maholokwe, I just want to say Kiotaba Rebuile. Aloha.
Climbing, reaching, grasping for what's been eternally mine. I've gotta get up, gotta move on, gotta hope, breathe, before I run out of time. Can't you see it's finally happening for me? Maybe you just gliding on air, carries me away. Now I'm just scratching the surface. The ride's just beginning for you, for me, if we just carry on. I can see the light out of the darkness. Try and keep up 'cause I'm flying away. I can see the light out of the darkness. If you're not with me, then move out of my way. I can see the light. Out of darkness comes 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 the light.
Oh, God, that was cute. Oh, we did it.
Yay!
We did it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was really fun.
I had a lot of fun. I'm like, oh my
Yeah,
God.
that's awesome.
Hey everyone, my name is Josh Rapoon, and I am the host of the What School Could Be in Hawaii podcast. This series features imaginative, creative, and innovative public charter, and independent school educators and education leaders, sharing their insights into the amazing possibilities for what school could be. Find our episodes at mltsinhawaii.com or your favorite podcast store. You can follow the show on Twitter at MLTS in Hawaii or on Facebook at Most Likely to Succeed in Hawaii. Aloha and mahalo.